Good afternoon, good morning, good day, good anything to everyone, and a very warm welcome to this IIEA Town Hall meeting. The International Iranian Economic Association, as many of you know, was founded in 2011 with a simple yet important purpose. It was to foster rigorous evidence-based research and open dialogue on Iran's economy within a truly global community of scholars and practitioners. The economy, as many of you know, is where the tire meets the road, where policy choices and political decisions translate into real consequences for people's daily lives and livelihoods. Given the complexity of the challenges that Iran faces today, IIEA has aimed to provide a space where these issues can be examined thoughtfully and scientifically, free of dogma and politics, grounded in evidence, and open to diverse perspectives. Economics itself is an evolving discipline, and we want Iranian scholarship to remain at the cutting edge of that evolution. A central part of our mission is to expose our community of Iranian economists to new ideas, methods, and trends and directions, whether it is in data analysis, in techniques, in emerging economic trends, or the political economy of reform, whatever it may be. Over the past year, our webinars and conferences have brought together experts from around the world to share insights on topics ranging from energy reform, and we will get into that a little bit later, subsidies, sanctions, governance, labor markets, historical transitions, etc., etc. Hence, the full range of Iran's challenges and opportunities. But our mission goes far beyond that, and organizing events and discussing research is not the only purpose of us coming together. We are here to build a community, one that brings together economists and also colleagues from other disciplines, such as political science, sociology, law, history, public policy, to name a few, all of which can shape and usually do shape and enrich our research. So therefore, we seek to connect those working inside Iran and those outside Iran who want to engage on Iranian issues, and both Iranian and non-Iranian scholars across generations, be it young, old, experienced, newcomers, whose research will touch on issues that are relevant to Iran. So our goal has been to really be a genuine home for everyone interested in Iran's economy. Now, a word about today's format. It's a town hall, which means that it is an open forum to everyone, not a lecture or panel, even though some people will be offering their insights or views about certain topics. It's a space for all of you, the members, as well as the friends of IIEA, to share your thoughts and raise questions, suggest ways for us to serve you better or to serve our shared mission better. And we will begin with a few brief updates and then open the floor for discussion. I also, since we are really interested and we are welcoming every voice, I would like to also ask that you feel comfortable in whatever language you would like to present, I mean, English or Persian. We have usually a English-only format in most of our webinars and conferences, but in this particular case, we would like to open it up to whatever you feel comfortable with. I want in advance to thank you for joining us, and this is really a town hall for you, and we all look very much forward to your views. And let us begin. I would like to begin with Dr. Hassan, Professor Hassan Hakimian, to give us a little bit of an overview about where we were, where we have come, and how IIEA came into fruition. And then we will move to Professor Maasoumi for follow-up, and then to Mohammad, the Professor Farzanegan, for giving us an overview about what conferences and what sort of topics we have covered in our conferences. An interesting statistics and very useful and encouraging report card. So with that in mind, please let us begin. And Hassan John, over to you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. It's a distinct pleasure to be able to join this panel and address friends and colleagues of the IIEA. More than 15 years since its inception. I remember distinctly when we set up the IIEA, one of the remarks that one of my colleagues made was the real test for you would be to assess the sustainability of a new initiative. It's very easy to set up a new initiative, but to keep it going is more of a challenge. And I'm very pleased to say that here we are in 2025, a good 17 years since the first idea of the IIEA was raised. I want to take this opportunity to quickly delve into a little bit of history. I am privileged as one of the 25 founding members of the IIEA, and also as one of the few on the task force that originally conceived the IIEA. And then I was the executive secretary for 2 rounds after it was set up. Let me briefly state that the original idea for the IIEA, International Iranian Economic Association, came during a workshop that was organized by our colleague, Dr. Parveen Alizadeh, at the London Metropolitan Business School in May 2008. This was a conference with the title of The Iranian Economy at the Crossroads, Future Choices and Prospects. This title has almost not aged, and it has guided us in many events, conferences, and panel webinar discussions that we have had as part of the IIEA. During that conference, after that conference rather, a few of us got together and we raised the idea of institutionalizing the idea of a network that will bridge the gap between our colleagues in Iran, both academics, students, researchers, scholars who are generally interested in the economy, in Iranian economy, research on Iranian economy, and those of us abroad. Rather significant numbers. And we were very conscious of this potential gap, this lacuna enlarging because of various challenges placed, not least of which had to do with the economic sanctions, which were proving more and more challenging for us. So the workshop proved to be an important point for a new initiative. And then even the name, the International Iranian Economic Association, IIEA for short, was discussed, debated, and ultimately selected. We then decided to widen the group, invite 25 eminent so-called founding members, both from Iran and elsewhere. And being an Iranian has never been a strict criteria for being interested and being a member of the IIEA. So fast forward, this was 2008, as I said, fast forward to 2010. By 2010, we had an approved bylaws. The bylaws is in fact on the website of the International Iranian Economic Association. It's iraneconomics.org, I'm sure many of you know. And the very first conference which initiated IIEA was in December 2011, and that was, I'm happy to say, hosted by myself at SOAS, University of London. This then set the motion for a number of international conferences in the years that followed. We had, after that, in June 2013, a conference in Istanbul, Turkey, with Bilgi University. In October 2014 in Boston College. In June 2016, Marburg, our colleague Mohammad Reza Farzanegan hosted that. In March 2018, that was the 5th conference by this stage in Amsterdam. And the last one we held before COVID in May 2019 was in Naples. We had planned another conference in Doha, where I had relocated to in 2020, April 2020. That was unfortunately canceled because of COVID, and a second one in Doha also last year in November 2024 had to be canceled again, sadly, because of heightened military and political tensions in our country. What brought us together very briefly was that we wanted to work together as a group to form a private, non-profit and non-political association of scholars interested, as I mentioned, in the study of economic issues concerning Iran in the broadest sense of the term. Nadereh mentioned that it is at times dealing with topics that are interdisciplinary, and we're very happy about that. And the objectives of the IIEA were generally to promote high standard economic scholarship and research on Iran's economy, to promote cooperation amongst persons and organizations, and to facilitate communication amongst us, regardless of our location and time zone. And ultimately, we set ourselves the task of promoting better understanding of Iran's economic policy challenges and opportunities. And of course, these are not short in supply. Nearly half a decade after the revolution in 1979, we are still struggling with many meaty subjects. And in fact, it is arguable that Iran and Iran's economic development experience is a laboratory case bringing together tremendous socioeconomic, political, and wider issues. So as we speak, we have had to innovate. Innovation is often facilitated by need. And since getting together in in-person conferences has proven difficult for all sorts of reasons, for costs, and also reasons related to visas and travel, we have had to replace these with webinars. Mohammad Reza will give a useful overview of these webinars. And I want to end by saying that one of the main objectives of the IIEA was to actually bridge the gap. And I'm very happy and pleased to see in each one of our online activities, we see a good number of Iranian colleagues, whether PhD students or faculty members, who not only attend, but also volunteer to present. And IIEA has been enriched by the commitment that everyone has shown, and it's something to be proud of. Let me stop here, and I'm of course very happy to come back at the end to reflect further on any issues. Thank you.
Nadereh John,
yes, I am. I'm back. Thank you so much, Hassan, for this wonderful overview, and the fact that, as you were mentioning, it's easy to start something. It's much more difficult to keep it going. And on that note, I would like to pass it on to Essie. If you could give us your view of where we stand and where we need to go, and anything else that you would like to share with us. Thank you.
Good day to everyone. I'm honored and privileged to be a part of this association and doing a modest service for the last couple of years. This is my last year as president, and we are in the midst of an election season for the next group of leaders. I want to thank the panel organizers, and I want to thank the board members of association and people who've been active in it, as Hassan very briefly and admirably discussed how it came about. And I wanted to say that as I'm more of a newcomer, I'm incredibly impressed by the dedication of the original organizers and people who are active in this association. It's very promising and very impressive. Mohammad will have some data on the webinars, the range of topics covered, the range of activities that are incorporated in them, including workshops, keynotes, panels, and so on. And it's remarkable, it's quite impressive given how this past 15, 16 years have been eventful in so many ways, including a massive pandemic. So with that in mind, my thoughts are toward more of the future. How do we remain resilient, given that some of the issues and some of the problems and constraints will not go away? In fact, they may become heavier on our ability to do things that we want to do. And some of the thoughts I have are modest, but they are designed to make us adversity proof, as it were, like recession proof types of activities. One example is to have an archive, a working paper series of sorts that covers both economics, sociology, history, and all the social sciences, and any developments in computer science and machine learning, AI, that may be relevant, that our community and others could identify and would submit to that archive. This would be a digital source, and it will include all of our own works and links to all the works of scholars who are focused especially on Iranian economy and topics that relate to it. So that's something that could become a resource in terms of our remaining useful and attractive to PhD students and younger scholars. Even though in this day and age, we have tremendous access to sources, it is convenient for us to gather together things that we think are relevant and useful to research and potential research. So that's one idea. The other is something that we've done and to emphasize state-of-the-art methodology that is truly new, that may not be widely known. And these days, one example would be, of course, machine learning and AI and its use in economic research. Melinda Dell just won the Bates Medal for putting together ways to learn data from written words. How do we get economic data out of these things? Something machine learners have been doing for a while. But to report these developments somewhat prospectively, not belatedly, not after they reach necessarily a point of maturity, so that researchers can, interested in Iran, could benefit from that. And also to not be shy of bringing in, I think Nadereh pointed to this, developments in sociology, history, political science, and so on. I noticed that there is a massive comeback to political economy. Things that used to be taken as sacrosanct are no longer so. Why does Econ 101 teach economics the way it does? It is no longer a revolutionary question. We have Nobel Prizes given to Acemoglu and Robinson about the role of institutions, which, by the way, I disagree profoundly. But it's open area of research that used to be looked upon with some hesitation, because it was thought that maybe it doesn't use latest methodology of research. I think that's no longer true with some of the technology that we have. So the archive series, a digital series, will put more pressure on maybe board membership. Maybe we'll have people who will be specifically assigned and appointed to carrying on such a task, if the society agrees, and having more of the workshop, the state-of-the-art methodology reporting. The areas that I think are well known to Iranian researchers outside economics, and I report this happily, and you all are very aware, is the area of machine learning and AI. Iranian researchers are doing tremendous work. They are, in many respects, way ahead of their time. And we see them actually accused of being very good at some other activities that are useful for warfare. So it's a matter of maybe communicating more with that group of Iranian researchers, making them aware of our existence. That I think we could do some useful work. I think we've done very well in terms of the webinars. Hassan touched upon the difficulties we've had under the sanctions and other events in the world in terms of organizing face-to-face meetings. They are tremendously important. So I don't recommend we give up on that activity. We have accounting issues related to those sanctions. And once we resolve these, I think an activity will be fundraising in a big way rather than membership dues, which have never really been, and in my estimate, could never be a big source of funding. We could probably find that kind of funding in one go from one source for many years to come if we are in a position to receive and to advocate for that kind of fundraising. I was hopeful to be more useful to the association in that regard, but we hit upon pretty tough times. So those are my 2 cents, and I hope to participate in the open Q&A comment session later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Essie. These were excellent comments and excellent suggestions, which I think we can elaborate more and, of course, maybe plan for future webinars. Excellent. Thank you. Let me pass on to the much. We have been touting you already a lot, Mohammad Jan, with the sort of like the record of the webinars and the conferences and what we have covered. So everyone has talked about it. So let me pass it on to you for giving us the full report. Thank you.
You're welcome. So hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Not so well.
How about now?
Yes, much better.
Is it
yes.
better? Okay.
Yeah.
So Hassan talked about the conferences that we had in the past in IIEA, which is our basically the best outlet to have this physical interaction with our colleagues and other researchers who are working from about Iran, inside Iran, outside Iran. And in the past, we had a regular, basically, conferences. So Hassan, I guess you missed the 2019 Italy conference. Before that, we were planned for 2020. So 2019 was also in Italy, and 2020 it was planned in Qatar, COVID-19, and our webinar series as a reaction to the COVID condition started in 2021. So we saw how we can basically keep this connection with the academy and the researchers inside Iran and outside, and to still basically discuss the timely topics related to political economy of Iran. So we saw that the webinar format could be the second best year to basically fill this gap. So in that year, in 2021, we had 5 webinars. So And since then, this trend is growing. So in 2022, we had 6 webinars, 2023, 7 webinars, 2024, 9 webinars. 2024 was also planned to basically we try again with the Qatar to hold this conference in Doha with the host of Hassan. But as he said, the situation in the region, in the Middle East, basically hindered to organize it there. So we forced to cancel that. 2025 that we are now with this October and the one in November would be 10 webinars. So that's basically a growing trend, and that shows that we have managed to have a regular contact with our audience and participant members on different topics related to Iranian economy by inviting both scholars from inside and outside of Iran, and it has a regular basically frequency every second Wednesday in each month. So we have basically these things. So it had different formats. Most of them are panel sessions in a way that 2-3 presentations with the moderator. 28 of these events was a panel structure. We had also some keynote talks, around the 6 lectures as a keynote and 1 workshop, a specialized session in the form of workshop. Maybe in future we are able to increase the number of workshops, as Esfandiar also mentioned, the area of artificial intelligence and all these machine learning. Could be nice if virtually we can manage it, this workshop. From the topics that we have covered in these webinars, the majority and the most popular topics was the sanction Iranian economy. By the way, the November session would be also on the sanctions that 2 colleagues will talk about, humanitarian effects of sanctions. So that has built the central focus of our webinars, right? With at least 9 webinars directly addressing these impacts of international sanctions on Iranian economy. The other popular topics, was gender and the women economic issues. 5 sessions have been dedicated to exploring topics such as gender and governance, gender responsive budgeting, and the role of women in the job market of Iran. So very important for IIEA, this issue of women and their role in the development of Iranian economy, both from political perspective and economic one. We also, again, IIEA is very much interdisciplinary. It's not just focusing on the economics as it is, but also we are in interaction with the other scholars from history, culture, health, and so on and so forth. So political economy, economic history. We had the special panels with respect to Iranian economic history, and things like this, political capitalism, and similar topics. And then, of course, the other popular topics in our webinars was climate change and environmental challenges of that Iran is facing with that. So basically, these have been the core things. So of course, given these new challenges and new opportunities, AI technology and so on and so forth, I guess there would be more space and more needs to also focus on those topics to bring it in the IEA discussions. We also discussed the memberships, so we are actively looking to increase our memberships. These are very much important for us, and for the statistic that I had, we had 127 active members. This is statistic of just a couple of months before. So this is one statistics. For our webinars, more than 1,000 people have been registered for our webinar series. So that shows again a popularity of a webinar series for a broader audience, both from Iran and outside of Iran. Our memberships are very much open, and for the people inside Iran is free of charge, and for the PhD students outside of Iran also free of charge. Basically, as Esfandiar said, we are not looking at it as a source of funding for the IIEA. Most of the works that we are doing are volunteer, and basically, in that sense, we are happy that we are able to allocate these resources for keeping contact with the colleagues inside and outside of Iran, those who are interested on doing the research on the topic related to the political economy of Iran. Yes, and another important thing that we have in front of us in IIEA is the election. The next year election would be basically election this year, but the new board will start its activity from the next year. So we are also very much looking forward for active participation of members in election, in the forthcoming election. We will be in touch with the members in due time to let them know more details with respect to the forthcoming election. So that's from my side, and I would be happy to answer any question in Q&A. Thank you very much.
Maybe just before I move on to the next set of speakers, two points. One is that, Mohammad, if you can maybe explain to people a little bit about how these webinars come into being, because maybe people feel that, you know, there are the gods of, I don't know, the economy that are up there, whereas I think that it's a very democratic process. People propose, people you know, suggest, and we essentially try to find slots. Yeah, if the process of the webinar.
Yeah, right. I mean, as a executive secretary in the IIEA, I usually coordinate these webinars. I'm in a close contact with the board members and other researchers to invite them to engage in the webinars. It's a very open and transparent process, so we welcome any good ideas which are helping to understand the complexity of Iranian economy. And so we welcome new presenters. We would like also diversify the participants in our webinars, both gender diversity and also diversity in terms of topics. So and this is something that we always welcome that. So if any of you who basically are interested on this and have an ongoing research on the Iranian economy, this is, I guess, is a good platform to share your results and receive feedback on that. And many of papers who have been discussed in our webinars have been later on published and basically have been benefited from comments and discussions and feedbacks that the audience have given to the presenters in our webinars. So if you have a suggestion, proposal for a specific topic which have not been discussed in our webinar series in the past, by the way, everything is online in our YouTube channel. So everything would be recorded and documented. So feel free to look at the history of our past webinars on the IIEA website. So if you think there is something missing and you have a nice idea, nice research to present and to share it, feel free to email me, and I would be happy to coordinate it in one of our affiliate roads in future.
So the door is open to any suggestions, any ideas. We welcome everything. The second point that I wanted to make is, please, if you feel that you would like to put a question or raise your hand, please feel free to do so. We will come in due process to you. Let me move on to the next set of speakers, but then again, afterwards we would like to open it up to anybody. First, let me go to Professor Aida Mirzaie, and then I would like to ask Professor Massoud Karshenas, and last but certainly not least, our very dear friend, Professor Djavad Salehi-Isfahani, to make your presentations or offer us your insights. Go ahead, over to you, Aida.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It has been my pleasure to be part of IIEA. I have been a board member, if I remember correctly, for the last 4 or 5 years. I am a macroeconomist, and my focus right now is research on macroeconomic policies on gender equality in Iran. So many things I look at it is more from gender lens. And I'm glad Mohammad explained in regard to how much IIEA has tried to emphasize and focus and actually bring gender issues to our online events. And I would add to it, even we need more. And especially, I don't want to repeat everything others said. I would like to emphasize we need more members. We need more active members. Because as you know, as they explained, others explained, all these tasks need manpower. And for example, rather than board being in charge of everything, we need to have different committees, subgroups, to be in charge of online groups, conferences, planning, working on website. For example, our website can be a center, can be a hub for us to network, to collaborate, access to publications, as Essie mentioned, to have our working papers to be there. One other thing I would like to be place that we can have access to data. As you know, we have gap in our data, especially in gender data. We need to find ways actually to collect more, to get funding for that, to use our resources, to have our website to be a place that when I need the data, I can go and find other sources. So when it comes to IIEA, I am very hopeful about future of IIEA. I believe in our collective knowledge and collective ability. But again, I would like to ask audience and other economists to give us suggestion. What should we do to bring more people to be active members here? And when we go to audience, I would like to hear where we are doing maybe right or wrong, how we can improve IIEA's basically to get not only more members, more people to be to try to help us to achieve IIEA's objective and goals. As we said, for all of us as Iranians, and we do have other economists who work on Iran, that they are not Iranian. But it for us is important to see more research, more work on Iran, on policies in regard to Iran, economic development in Iran, and IIEA can be center, instrumental for that purpose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me pass on to Massoud. Massoud John, over to
Nadereh
you.
John, can I come after Djavad, because my talk is less about IIEA and more substantive.
Oh,
so
okay.
Djavad talk
Djavad
about
John,
IIEA.
you are being promoted to the next speaker. If you could please go ahead.
It's okay with Djavad.
Yeah, absolutely, it's fine. Yeah, I'm kind of coming a little bit from the outside. I was not involved in the definition of what this panel would be doing, but I'm very glad to join it, and I think it's very valuable that we look back where we have been and the path forward. If you look a little bit from the outside, which I think is my position, I'm not been following very closely the IIEA activities. The first thing is that its survival, as I think Hassan mentioned, is a real triumph, because we have had everything against us. If you compare IIEA with similar organizations in neighboring countries like Turkey, maybe India, or countries in Latin America like Brazil, there was basically no similarity. And the one fact that stares you in the face is that Iran is a sanctioned country, and most of the IIEA officers and influential people are outside Iran. And we are trying to help people inside Iran, and we face a lot of barriers. We can't organize conferences in Iran. Conferences abroad have been very difficult to organize. So I hope this doesn't come across as a dispiriting account. But I think it's very important that we recognize why IIEA is so different from other organizations that are free association of economists, inside, outside, people come and go. You know, I'm very impressed by, for example, the Turkish Economic Association that brings people all the time. They have a journal. Indian economists, of course, you know, there's a very rich supply of excellent economists. And because there's no language barrier, because Indian economists are basically bilingual and they speak English, the inside, outside mingle freely. They come and go. And the language barrier is becoming a little bit less restrictive in our case, so that when we stage a conference in English, as we do, Iranians can pretty much benefit. A lot of Iranians can benefit. But this inside-outside, which I think is very important, you know, in the US, we care about gender balance, racial balance, and all those. When we talk about IIEA,
we used to very much.
yes, that's right.
We used to.
So if we were going to do any DEI, we would be looking at inside outside. And I really would like to hear today from Iranian economists inside Iran how they view us and what they want us to do. From my side, I see that the conferences were really the critical part of IIEA in terms of bringing people together. I wish we had more accurate data. I'm sure we do, but maybe Mohammad could supply that on the fly or later supply it. How has the participation in IIEA conferences changed in this particular respect, inside, outside, when we moved from conferences that involved travel, that was very attractive for people inside Iran, to webinars, where it becomes, where it competes with lots of stuff online. You know, I don't have time to watch so many webinars by CPR, by the Bread Association here, where I can learn a lot of stuff about cutting edge research. And if I want to watch the Iranian webinars, it would not be really to understand about cutting edge research. It'd be more about what's going on inside Iran. And there we have a disadvantage. I mean, this outside has become more and more difficult to be relevant for inside. A couple of things that have happened is that Iran, there are basically three advantages people inside Iran have, and you see that as they rise relative to people outside in terms of the quality of research and the quantity of research that's coming along. One is they have access to funding inside Iran, and we don't. Two, they have access to inexpensive, high-quality research assistants. These are MA students at Sharif University, Khatam University. If you look at the research that's coming out, they're also helped by these students who want to do research with faculty in order to be able to apply abroad and come outside, right? We have a lot of difficulty. I can't raise any fund to do Iran research to pay students. So that has been the biggest constraint on my research, which has become basically blogging about Iran as opposed to taking a serious look at the data. And data is another advantage they have. They have access to data much better than we do. If you look at some of the work that has been done with the this vast data called Refah Iranian, Iranian welfare data set, that basically merges everything based on national social security or national identification card of Iranians, you know, the bank accounts, ownership of cars, ownership. They're doing very interesting work there. And I feel like we are a little bit cut off being outside. Again, all because of sanctions, not because anything we didn't do. We tried very hard. Some of us travel still despite the difficulties. And I want to encourage us to not lose that for a variety of reasons, fear of travel or things like that. I think besides survival outside, which has been really important for us, and it's commendable that people have worked so hard, you know, especially people like Hassan, Mohammad, Kamyar, who have done a lot of the legwork behind. And of course, people who have become officers and served as such, is to also be present in Iran. I think if we can keep our presence in Iran, not to get divided up because of sanctions, I think that would be a huge achievement. So I would just want to end by going back to the point I made earlier, which is I'd really like to hear from people inside Iran how they view us and what they want us to do in order to bridge this inside-outside gap. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Djavad John. I think that, you know, when you were talking about data, I was thinking that maybe it would be useful for us to have a kind of maybe a session on data specific, both inside as well as, you know, data sources outside, because the impression for many people is that in Iran, we don't have good data. But when you look at sort of like benchmarking Iran against some other countries, it's not that bad. It's quite, at least the World Bank has done some benchmarking, and I'm sure you're aware of it, that there is a good data collection as well as, to the extent possible, also accessibility of data. So we could maybe plan on a data session at some later stages. And now I'd like to go to Massoud John, and if you could please share with us your views.
Yeah, may I start by, Nadereh mentioned at the beginning about the elections, and Essie also mentioned them. So I am the chair of the election committee, and the other two members are Hassan Hakimian and Valentin Moqaddam. We look forward to your nominations so that we can start the elections. We really need, some fresh blood from outside rather than the same people. So please nominate yourself, or if you are shy doing it yourself, you can ask friends to nominate you, either for a board member or president. Now, having said that, I want to move on to use my 5 minutes to talk about a more substantive issue about the Iranian economy, which I think we haven't covered in our webinars and would be important for the current state of the Iranian economy and the future. So I want to just spread some salt in the discussion so far by bringing this substantive issue. And that is about, if I can share just a picture with you. Do I need to send requests? So I want to share this PowerPoint.
You should be able now to share it.
Okay, so we are all familiar with the rapid fertility decline and demographic transition during the past 3 decades in Iran. A graphic picture of Iran's intense and rapid demographic transition is shown in this slide. During the first phase of this demographic transition, we see a rapid decline in child dependency rates and 20 percentage point increase in the share of the working age population in total population. This is the green line on the right-hand side axis. After a relatively short period of stable labor force population ratio, we see a rapid decline in the share of the labor force in the third phase. This third phase is not very far away, and we are approaching it very quickly within the next 5 years. In fact, the size of the young working age population, 15 to 24 age group, has already fallen from its peak level of about 18.5 million in 2005 to its current level of just below 12 million, or by 34%. Even the numbers of 25-29 age group have fallen by 27%. The passing of this so-called youth bulge will, of course, intensify over time and will spread to higher working age groups as well. These demographic trends have immense social, political, and economic implications. Here, I will briefly highlight 1 or 2 of the economic implications. One of the obvious implications is that we cannot really understand the labor market trends without taking into account these rapidly changing demographic trends. For example, the fact that unemployment rate has fallen from about 14% in 2010 to just over 7% in 2024 is mostly due to such demographic trends. In Iran, like other countries, youth unemployment is very high, and with the passing of the youth bulge, unemployment rates inevitably fall. Demographic trends also have important implications for other aspects of the labor market, such as female labor force participation, unemployment, care economy, etc., which we can hopefully have the time to discuss later. Another important effect of Iran's demographic transition is its implications for the nature of economic growth. The nature of economic growth at the current stage of the demographic transition has to be very different from that faced the country at the first stage. In the first stage of the demographic transition, the working age population is growing rapidly and savings rates are increasing due to the falling dependency rates. Investment rate can increase, leading to higher economic growth. This is the so-called demographic dividend or demographic gift. During this phase, per capita income can keep growing even without any growth in labor, in the productivity of labor. In contrast, during the current phase of demographic transition, when the prime working age population is shrinking, economic growth can only take place through the growth of labor productivity. This necessitates the creation of appropriate institutions and incentive structures that facilitate constant technological upgrading. Better integration in the global economy through trade in goods and services and foreign direct investment is other necessary condition for this phase of growth. Failing this would lead to increased poverty as the population grows older, with the younger educated labor and capital flight to neighboring countries where more productive use of their resources is possible. So I stop here on this gloomy note and pass it to Nadereh to hopefully for further discussion and hopefully in future IIEA webinars discussing these implications. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is very thought-provoking, and particularly, I think it's certainly something that we could highlight more in future webinars, and certainly maybe tie it in with the suggestions that Jun was making in terms of, what are the implications of AI and other perhaps productivity enhancing techniques for the Iranian economy. One of the things in that sense, I was very much taken aback when I saw that the IMF has this report, AI preparedness report. You probably have seen it, where Iran is ranking really very low on this ranking, which is quite sad, because Iranians are fueling or are engines of AI advancement around the world, and it's kind of sad to see that inside Iran we are falling behind. Having said that, let me invite everyone again to either raise their hands or put in their questions. But before doing so, I see that a lot of people want to hear from Hashem Jan, Professor Hashem Pesaran. I think he is online right now. He is among the panelists right now. Is that so?
Yes.
You have been sort of like the wind in our sails from the very early stages. Hashem, if you could please, and one of the earliest, I think you were the first president of IIEA, and still very much involved, and very much your heart is in IIEA. So if you could please share with us some of your insights and where you think the possibilities are for us to go forward.
I don't know whether you hear me. I don't know whether I'm on the screen. I've been listening attentively, And as all the webinars, I've always been here if I have not been traveling. So for me, it's an important resource. That way to find out what young people do, what research they are interested in. And I don't know what can add except that I'm pleased to see that is going on. So what we started, especially with the help of Hassan and Massoud, when we were discussing SOAS, I remember many years ago. And there has been a lot of difficulties, but a lot of people told me at the time, is it the right time to have a IIEA? Is remind me what I'm interested in the case of Iran reform. Is the right time to reform? Obviously, it's the right time. I mean, there's no point waiting for something to happen because we never know what's going to happen in the world. Therefore, any moment in time, we need to do our best to advance knowledge, communicate ideas. So I wasn't going to say anything, but since I was asked, I think that's, to me, hopefully we get more younger people involved. I mean, not so young, I mean, new people, I should say. Young, old, whatever background they have, because I think they should think of this IIEA as their institution, not belonging to any party, any organization. We don't get funding from anybody except those who originally contributed, Iranians who wanted to get off the ground. But as Mohammad pointed out, it's been mainly voluntary, but mainly almost exclusively voluntary, I should say. So I think, as was pointed out by Djavad and others, we really need participation from inside Iran. I get so many emails, I'm sure you all do. Iranians are hunger for knowledge and information. I always feel bad that I can't answer everybody adequately. So therefore, maybe there could be a forum that some PhD student from Iran or researchers from Iran in general could ask their question to a panel. Whether we can organize it is more complicated because you need to have a list of people who are interested in what question they have. So they have lots of interest. They often write and say, well, they're working in this area, they don't have anybody to help them. Now, in terms of data, Iran, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be one of the first to look at data in Iran when I was the head of research department, Central Bank of Iran. I was always amazed how good the data of Iran is. So I think I would rely more on Iranian data. I don't mean all data, obviously. Like there are data which are administrative data. That's difficult to rely on. But there are survey data. I think they're done really well. I mean, Djavad has used a lot of survey data and many others. I'm working with Massoud and one of ex-PhDs students looking at some of survey data. And it's not that the data, I don't think it's not just the data is not available. The question is how could people from outside Iran could access the data? I think that was Djavad's issue, I think. The data exists. Of course, it's not as good as everybody wants the data to be or as plentiful, but I think there are a huge amount of data which we can use. And the technology which is being advanced, are ready to do this remote. Nowadays, we can do research remotely with many people all over the world. And I think it would be important if we can initiate joint research with some of young researchers which have access to data, they know the data well. And more of that should be, I'm sure there are some going on, but I'm saying more of that has to be done. So I don't think it's not so much that we don't have data, that we don't know how to share it, how to make it publicly available, how to access it. Important advances taken place. So maybe those people who work with it, maybe Djavad could say a few words on that. So I think that's important. Without the data, we can't talk about AI, you cannot talk about research, in my view. I mean, AI is not new. I mean, how could you do research without the data? You can only speculate without the data. And the whole point of this kind of association is to take out speculation as much as possible. You can never get rid of it. To take out prejudices, to take out opinions which are based on presumptions rather than facts. We are moving away from this, unfortunately, all over the world, nothing to do with Iran, America, Europe even. So my view is that at these stages, it's more important duty of academics and their co-researchers to actually focus more on the data, and therefore access to the data is my view is the key. If you want to use AI without the data, what are you going to do? You put rubbish in, you get rubbish out. So therefore, AI is not the solution to the problems. It's a tool which can be abused, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that we would think of these issues as we go forward. That's it. I don't know what else to say. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for your insights. I just, in that connection, I want to say that there was a benchmarking that the World Bank's MENA region, the Middle East and North Africa region did, and a report has come out maybe 2-3 years ago, benchmarking the data availability, quality of data, and so on, of all the MENA countries, and benchmarking it against Mexico, which seems to be the poster child for data availability and so on in developing countries. And Iran actually is ranked, I don't want to say best, but certainly very highly on that front. I can submit that paper, which is done very, very, how should I say, objectively about the Iranian data and Iranian data availability. I see a couple of questions, and also Valentine Mogaddam had raised her hand, and also Hassan, if I'm correct, I saw your hand being raised at one point in time as well. So let me go first to those who have raised their hands, and then there is a question that has come, or a couple of questions that have come in. We can cover those afterwards. Valentine, over to you. Can you talk, or is it Mohammad? Can we ask her to? Can you connect her, please?
Yes, I invited her to join.
Val, are you on? Okay, maybe we can go first to Hassan. Hassan, you had raised your hand and then you took it off. I don't know whether we covered what you were saying or whether you still want
just a point of information. Since Mohammad mentioned, I'd missed out one of the IIEA conferences. In fact, the very last one, May 2019 in Italy. I mentioned it for sure because it was the last one, a significant one. I mentioned it in relation to Naples. I assume everybody knows Naples is in Italy. Just more seriously, because this panel was meant to encourage brainstorming. So we started by looking at the past so as to focus on the future. I think this is the real value added of this session. Already, I think some really interesting ideas have evolved. We've heard the word data repeatedly. I'm going to take this opportunity to actually suggest one of the future webinars focuses on Iranian data sources, and we invite a couple of our colleagues who have insight and first-hand experience. Of course, Djavad is one of them, to run a session to give insight and suggestions, advice about how to access data and so on and so forth. I think this could actually be very useful. A second suggestion, if I may mention, is I agree with Djavad that it's difficult to engage directly researchers, especially PhD students and so on from Iran, not least because of difficulties in offering contracts and payments and so on, something that we are very familiar with in our own university context here. But I want to suggest, as a way of addressing that, maybe it would be a good idea for the established grouping of IIEA officers, members, and activists involved in this unique network and forum to actually offer mentorship. We can initiate a mentorship program And each one of us who volunteers, I mean, this will not, of course, be compulsory, offer to take on 1 or 2 interested, promising, and committed young and upcoming scholars from Iran or anywhere else, actually, for that matter, who are interested in research on Iran's economy, and have them as our mentees for, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months, something like that. So 2 ideas there. One, a webinar on Iran's data sources, and another one, a mentorship program. SEO, of course, mentioned an archive. This requires resources. It's a great idea, but it requires personnel and some funds. But these are 3 ideas. I would like them to be tabled for future consideration.
Since I have you here, Valentine, please come onto the panel. I just wanted to mention that one of the questions that have been posed in the questions is actually about whether some of the webinars can be organized inside Iran, which I think is, of course, we could do the webinars, or is that
already done? I'm sorry to jump in, Nadereh. One of the sessions which I actually chaired, and therefore I remember very directly, on foreign policy implications for Iran economy, was exclusively done involving 2 colleagues from Iran. So there's nothing stopping from anybody from any nationality, any geographical location, including Iran, in participating. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the specific question is that, do you think some seminars can be held in person in Iran? So maybe, let me be more specific, not just the webinars, but then that seminars will be in person in Iran. I guess, yes, if you want to hold it at any of the universities, and, we will just, the rest of us will just essentially Zoom in, and it should be done, and then the seminar is done in person at whatever venue, and that should be okay.
I suggest that is something that is discussed by the board, because it would be a new practice. I think that has to be discussed with the board, and then a decision can be made. Thank you.
And I think the second question is it possible to pay attention to topics with historical or sociological approaches in addition to purely economic topics, so that researchers are more encouraged to study these topics? I guess that was also answered, that we are trying very much to have a mix, a menu of different topics that bring in sociologists, historians, lawyers, and everything. So the answer is yes. We are addressing that issue. We would like to see more, but of course, yes, already as in the past, we have addressed the more cross-sectional, cross-dimensional, across different fields. So with that, Valentine, are you on, or can you pose your question? I don't know whether she is.
She's not on. Can I make a suggestion also? The webinars we have been having, of course, they are great, they were successful, but I think to be more fruitful, the webinars, I think we need to have discussions for all the papers presented in the webinars, because this way we can have a real debate. And, the short time that we have, it's, it's difficult for the audiences to, they pose this disparate question, and therefore I think we would have a very short discussion by discussants, and then it sets the the scene for further questions and answers. This is my suggestion for future webinars.
We've done that. We've done that as well. It depends on volunteers to put their hands up and agree, I assume, based on the topic and the subject, to act as a discussant.
But people should be asked, then they will volunteer.
Yeah.
They don't know that we need the discussants.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me pose Valentine's question, since I don't see she's coming on board. Okay, so she says, to piggyback on what both Hassan and Nadereh said, there is indeed much data available on Iran, and I was chuffed to see precisely that the World Bank note about how Iran makes much of its data publicly available compared, for instance, Saudi Arabia. It takes part, Iran takes part in the World Value Survey, while many Arab sheikdoms do not. Massoud's comment complement those of Djavad about the need to bridge the inside-outside gap and find ways to involve more of the scholars inside Iran. I agree that in-person conferences would be more appealing to many, including someone like myself, let alone folks inside Iran. We are living in a very difficult times. Someone I know at a university in the American South had an invitation to meet with President Pezeshkian while he was at the UN General Assembly meetings, but was instructed not to do so. I do think it would be excellent to organize conferences in nearby countries that enable participants by Iranians, such as Armenia. I think that's one of the suggestions that she's making. I think, I pass it on to all of you who wants to comment on Val's point. And then I go to Ida, who has raised her hand. Essie, would you like to talk about that, or Hassan, or those previously involved with conference organizing?
Well, I think I find myself agreeable to the suggestions, and especially on data and format of the webinars, expanding the range of topics. All have been things that we aspire to. And I take Hassan's point that it takes resources, human or otherwise, to extend these activities. And this board has been, other members than myself, have been carrying most of the burden for 15, 16 years beautifully, but we have to worry about sustainability and involving younger members, both outside and inside Iran, to have the same dedication to achieve a lot of these good ideas that are being raised. Just on the humorous side, Massoud John, I thought Hashem was the designated discussant for every paper. So, we do that, but I think, again, your point is well taken as well. The organizers can organize the webinars in that way, to have formal discussions. I like that for seminars in our university. It tends to get people more involved and more interested, and sometimes the discussants can put things in perspective the way the speaker does not have the opportunity to do so. I think is an important element to these webinars. So those are my reactions.
Yeah, certainly. I think that one of the questions that I had in mind, particularly because many of you are more, how should I say, conversant in the technical side, on the technical, econometric, all these other sides, to see to what extent we could do also something on skills building, not just on discussion of topics, but also skills building. What do you see emerging in terms of cutting edge skills? I mean, when I was at the World Bank, at some point in time, these randomized impact assessments were the in thing to do at that. Now I don't hear about it as much. Part of it is because I'm not anymore in the running. But what are some of the new kind of techniques that are coming up that maybe our economists need to look into, learn by themselves, or maybe even IIEA could provide some sort of webinars on those skills. So that's something to be put on our plate, on already very full plate. Aida and then Mohammad, you both raised your hands. Please go ahead.
I want to add in regard to the data, I talked about it. I agree that Iran has a very good tradition of data collection when it comes to central bank and a statistical center in Iran. However, if you look at World Bank data and IMF data recently, since I am working on a paper and I need macro data, many data that used to be available, now they are missing in regard to Iran. Basically, Iran is not sharing all macro data. Either they are not collecting anymore. If they do, they are not sharing them with international organizations. So I don't know how much these macro data in regard to, for example, money supply. We used to have very detailed information on M1, M2, and everything else. Now we don't have it. The only data shared with IMF is a change in money supply. That's the only thing we have there. So basically, when it comes to availability, accessibility of data, I don't know how much is different being outside Iran or inside. I am interested to know that. But I can talk from outside. The data is not available as it used to.
Well, you can go on the website of Markaz Amar. It's all there. But
They do, at least from the US, we don't have access now. Even central bank, I used to go easily and get all data. Now the website is not available.
Well, it's on and off. I mean, it is now. Maybe from US, you have to get one of these VPNs.
Oh. I will try that.
Mohammad?
Yeah, the website, as far as
we can hear.
The website, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now, the
yes.
websites are blocked also from here. So I guess with the non-Iranian IP, it's not accessible, maybe with VPN. So since we talk about conferences, I still think, I mean, the webinars are a good development, but are not replacing these physical conferences. And we are very much looking forward for any good proposals from our members. Well, ideally, we should have it in Iran, but due to constraints, might not be easy in the short term to plan in Iran. But maybe in close by country, in Turkey, for example, there was a good, I mean, there are good such possibilities to have it in Turkey. So if there are proposals on that side, we would be welcome to review those proposals and try to reactivate our physical interaction with the audience. As Djavad also correctly mentioned, the webinars are nice, fine, but they are basically are not necessarily substituting the conferences that we had in the past. And Hassan are more informed. I mean, in the past, we also funded many participants, speakers from Iran to join the conferences. The funding issue, of course, is an important one. And we always wanted to support, given the fact that the travel costs and so on could be a barrier. So in the past, IIEA, together with the related hosts, we always managed to raise some money to basically help the researchers inside Iran to join our conferences and cover the costs. So that is also, a kind of a good thing to have in the future conferences, that we offer this type of support to the presenters and speakers, especially younger speakers, to join our events. So again, I wanted to give this call for the people who have the possibility, potential to be a local organizer, to approach us and get in touch with us, and we would be happy to discuss the details bilaterally.
Yeah, I think that the problem with visas and, of course, cost is one aspect. The other one is, of course, the second aspect. And it would be good to find countries where Iranians don't have to get visas, because that has always been a very big hurdle. One of the topics that has just emerged over the past few weeks or so is this new currency, the elimination of the 4 zeros of the Iranian currency, and what impact it could have on everything in Iran. And it would be interesting to watch for that and to sort of see whether Iran is going the path of Argentina, or is it going to go the path of some other countries that did a good job with, kind of trimming down its denomination, the denomination of its. Anyway, just an idea that came to my mind. Another point that I wanted to raise, and we've been discussing it with Aida and also the board, is that we would very much like to see more Iranian women economists also participate. We've been able to cover a lot of gender issues, but we also would like to have women economists who are in monetary policy, who are in, I don't know, in all sorts of different walks of life, walks of economic life, and we would like to see more of them step forward and essentially, present or be participant in IIEA, and so we welcome that very much. I wanted to put that on the table as well. I think we have 2 more questions. Ali Saedi says, for your information, the results of the National Economic Attitude Survey of Iranians were recently published by the Ministry of Guidance. So I guess that's a comment, and it's good that we kind of address this, and maybe again in a future session that may be covering data or data availability, that could be one of the areas that we could cover. Then Mahmoud Meskoub, he's writing on population aging. An important policy initiative should be increasing the labor force participation, especially of women. Low labor productivity is another area for tackling population aging and shortage of labor. Labor immigration should also be part of this package. Thank you very much. Excellent comment. I think we're getting close to the end of the session. Is there anything else? Let me open it up for the last round of any comments on any topic by anybody before closing.
I can say a few words about data. There are 3 kinds of data that we use. One are the surveys, 2 main surveys, the Income and Expenditure Survey and the Labor Force Survey. They come out very regularly. There's no country that I know that has as many surveys in the last 30 years as Iran. Every year they do it. It's very costly. I can't believe they're doing it every year. I'm thinking one of these days somebody's going to say, can we do this every 3 years or every 5 years? Anyway, it's available, and it's available on the web. The problem is that it is not easily accessible. You need to have some skills to download the data, bring it into a software, make sense of it. I've asked a Statistical Center of Iran many times to make sure data is easily accessible so people don't make mistakes about what's the definition of a variable and so on. At some point, I suggested they hand over the data to the ERF project called Harmonizing Survey Data, which has been a very successful project for the Middle East. Iranians thought that would compromise national security, but they put the raw data anyway there. So I don't know where that logic is. There are other survey data that come that are very useful. People have been using them. I have used them. That's the Gozaran Vakht, which is time use survey. They're very valuable. Then there are other data that we don't have access to. You really have to be in Iran or collaborate with an Iranian. These are these data that are generated because of the new technologies. Like there was a paper in Review of Economics of Household about expenditures, the transactions on a daily basis at supermarkets, all the places where the data is registered when somebody buys something, millions of observations. They were tracking expenditures during COVID. I think it was a very good paper. It was people from Khatam University did that. There's other data comes. People have been working with data generated by these taxi apps, basically Snap and one other. They share their data, and people have been poring over those to try to understand, for example, if a female driver, is it more likely that women will get rides from them? These are interesting questions. And then the third one, which is rare in Iran, and that explains one of the big differences between a country like Mexico, African countries, and Iran. And these are surveys done by researchers for a particular purpose, usually known as RCTs, where random control trials. They generate a lot of data, very useful data. Mexico was, I think, a very early starter in this process. In Iran, that's very hard to do because of the restrictions on why are you doing something and so on. So I just want to make people aware that what kind of data is available. I must say, I admire the Statistical Center for putting out data on inflation, which is very sensitive every month, even few days after a bomb exploded very near their offices in Fatemi Square, the data was out. And one has to be fair in saying they don't make data available. They try very hard. Inflation data is sensitive and is coming out regularly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Two things. Maybe if it's possible to invite one of the people that to maybe participate in a data session that we may have in the future. You also mentioned ERF, and I think that if you could maybe, if you or others who participate regularly, I participated a few times in ERF, but I think you participate regularly, to maybe talk a little bit about and why we could have maybe more of a presence, or use that venue as a way of advancing the community better. If you could also, you and again all the others, Hassan is a regular participant, Massoud, Mohammad, everybody I think is there.
You're well represented, I think, in ERF, in research and in institutionally. Hassan was on the board until recently. Massoud has been on the board and so on. So I don't think we have a problem there. I think it's good to think about ERF as a stepping stone to connect to inside Iran. Unlike IIEA, which has some difficulty in some circles in Iran in terms of its how okay it is to work with them. ERF doesn't have that. And I know that ERF is in difficulty with respect to its finances right now. They also had recent elections and hopefully get their act together. But they used to fund Iranian research. Iranians doing research, sometimes they have $10,000 grants, so it goes a long way to do work in Iran. Those have ceased, unfortunately. So I must say that the usefulness of ERF for IIEA has been diminished with the financial constraints that they are facing, as well as us.
One suggestion about the data is that, many journals these days insist on reproducibility of your results, so you have to deposit your data with the journal. So with the IIEA presentations, we may ask presenters to, if they can, deposit their data, and we create a data repository that these are they are not from official sites, so it's not sensitive. And it would be a useful way of sharing data.
Sounds very good. Anybody else? Any other comments?
Just, I am not sure how possible it is. Talking about ERF conferences are in countries that Iranian easily can come. I don't know how we can tap into that in order to have some, I don't know if they are gonna let us to have our sessions, but at least for some meetings, and I don't know, since we don't have our annual meeting. For example, next year the meeting is in Lebanon, and Iranian, I don't think they need visa to go there.
Yeah. Is it possible to maybe piggyback with some? So we can discuss that in a different. Yeah.
We don't think they will
other?
agree to a special session from Iran, but anyway, worth trying.
I think there is a comment.
Yeah. On ERF, as Djavad mentioned, ERF is not the same ERF as we knew it for the past 30 years or the first 30 years. It's facing financial challenges. So any idea about teaming up for like piggybacking and so on, that doesn't solve our financial issue. They would expect us to cover costs. So on this idea of conferences versus webinars came up a little while ago. There's no, in my mind, I was involved with all 6 international conferences, and as you know, and I mentioned, I was going to host another one in Doha, which didn't happen. You need hosts, the easier part, because given our collective networks, we can always find some willing institutional host somewhere, be it Turkey, be it somewhere where Iranians can travel more easily without visa restrictions. So that's one thing, but you also need funds. You cannot overlook this. I have insight into that because I was involved with funding with each one of those. We had 3 regular sources of funding. The Journal of Applied Econometrics kindly contributed for each one of these conferences a certain amount, which has to be acknowledged. We had the local hosts, Marburg under Mohammad Reza, Amsterdam under our colleague Turaj Atabaki, SOAS under Massoud and myself. We covered some of the local costs. I'm mentioning just a few, but as Mohammad Reza mentioned, we always covered the full costs of attendance for our Iranian scholars, because for obvious reasons, we had to cover their accommodation and also flights. So an in-person conference is not really a direct alternative to webinars. These are not mutually exclusive. There's no disagreement that an in-person conference is desirable. The disagreements will start the minute we start talking about how to operationalize this idea. And we have talked about this for many years on the board. I want to raise a challenge. If anybody listening now has secured the security and assurance of a certain pot of money to fund our next international conference, let us know, and we have enough experience to actually organize it. But funding is an essential ingredient of that. Thank you.
Djavad Jan, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, a quick point. Yes, I wanted to propose that we think about becoming more of an accepted organization inside Iran. I don't know how we do it. There are voices that create misunderstandings about who we are and what we do. But if we thought about a way to become registered in Iran as an organization and then have relationship with Iranian economic associations, there are so many stuff going on in Iran. I think there are 5, 6 economic channels, video channels that have very interesting discussions of what's happening inside Iran economy-wise. We need to put it somewhere on our agenda, as difficult as it is, to try to be more present inside Iran and not just be present outside and define our relationship by them coming to us. We need to also go to them. I just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, those are very important points, but then also the challenges become, of course, a multitude. Let me end by this. I think one of the comments was that we need to be also careful about this topic of even mentorship of this inside Iran until things perhaps sort out. But it's excellent suggestion that we need to have better links. With that, I would like very much to thank you all. I think that the ideas that were raised were excellent, and I think we shall act on them. The next board, whoever is still during the coming months where the existing board is still in power. I think that I would like to echo what was said, that all of us are working, or at least are collaborating with different networks and different organizations, and which have really the wind in their sails. They can do whatever they want. They can raise money from wherever they want. They can do work wherever they want. And what I feel is that with IIEA and certainly anything else that deals with Iran, we are facing headwinds on every front. And with that, it is quite impressive of what we have achieved, what IIEA has achieved with all of its topics and webinars, and the fact that we exist, as somebody was saying, that it's not just enough to start, it's to continue and to persist. And I think I believe it must be this what I'm going to say is someone told me it's a poem by Rumi. I don't know, I haven't found it, but it says that we are not where we were, we are not where we want to be, but we certainly have come a long way from where we used to be. And this community has I think, grown, and it has certainly become closer. Of course, nothing is as effective as the handshake that people may have during an in-person and face-to-face meeting, but with given all of these constraints that we have had, I think we've managed to be to go ahead and to do well. I want to thank you on behalf of IIEA board, as well as the panel that is here, for your insights, for the collegial spirit, and let's stay in touch and keep the conversation going. There were a lot of excellent ideas that came up, and we will build and continue to build this community together. I wish you all a very productive day, and I look forward to seeing you at one of our next events. Thank you so much.